Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Astu, let us see Srimad, Divine Grace of High Charananda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. Skambi Vidhi Founder Charges, Divine Grace of Prabhupada ki. Antara Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Sri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Itai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the sum of the devotees. All glories to the sum of the devotees. All glories to the sum of the devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. The other one is not working. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Padaya Budale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namini. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pachani Vishesha Shunyavadi Prastata Nikatari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Deving Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nasta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Utama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavadina Ishtaki. Reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Third Canto, Chapter 31, entitled The Movements of the Living Entities. And this is today's last verse of the chapter, which is text number 48. Samyag-darśanayā buddhyā Samyag-darśanayā buddhyā yoga-vairāgya-yuktayā yoga-vairāgya-yuktayā māyā-viracite loke māyā-viracita loke caren nyasya kalevaram caren nyasya kalevaram samyag-darśanayā buddhyā yoga-vairāgya-yuktayā māyā-viracite loke caren nyasya kalevaram. Caren nyasya kalevaram samyag-darśanayā buddhyā yoga-vairāgya-yuktayā māyā-viracite loke caren nyasya kalevaram buddhyā yoga-vairāgya-yuktayā māyā-viracite loke caren nyasya kalevaram. Ladies. Vairāgya-yuktayā samyag-darśanayā, endowed with right vision. Buddhyā, through reason. Yoga, by devotional service. Vairāgya, by detachment. Yuktayā, strengthened. Māyā-viracite, arranged by Maya. Loke, to this world. Caret, one should move about. Nyasya, relegating. Kalevaram, the body. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. Endowed with right vision and strengthened by devotional service and a pessimistic attitude towards material identity, one should relegate his body to this illusory world through his reason. Thus one can be unconcerned with this material world. Please repeat. Endowed with right vision and strengthened by devotional service and a pessimistic attitude towards material identity, one should relegate his body to this illusory world through his reason. Thus one can be unconcerned with this material world. Purport. It is sometimes misunderstood that if one has to associate with persons engaged in devotional service, he will not be able to solve the economic problem. To answer this argument, it is described here that one has to associate with liberated persons, not directly, physically, but by understanding through philosophy and logic the problems of life. It is stated here, samyag-darśanayā buddhyā. One has to see perfectly, and by intelligence and yogic practice, one has to renounce this world. That renunciation can be achieved by the process recommended in the second chapter of the First Canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. The devotee's intelligence is always in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His attitude towards the material existence is one of detachment, for he knows perfectly well that this material world is a creation of illusory energy. Realizing himself to be part and parcel of the Supreme Soul, the devotee discharges his devotional service and is completely aloof from material action and reaction. Thus, at the end, he gives up his material body, or the material energy, and as pure soul, he enters the kingdom of God. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the third canto, 31st chapter of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled Lord Kapila's Instructions on the Movements of the Living Entities. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshunamitam Jena Tasmai Sri-Gurave Namah. Guru Deva Chalam Panglam Gayate Girim Yakvidamande Sri-Girim Dinatarni Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishvaram. When we read the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and read these purports, we can see that there's no wastage of words. There's no grandizing or just flowery language, but pure goodness. When you read these translations and hear the continued realization of the pure devotee, it's so important to hear, and that is Prabhupada's point here in the purport, that there's Vapu and Vani, there's personal association, but there's also, what's even more important is the Vani, or the instruction. And on that strength, as the verse tells us, one can thus be unconcerned with this material world. Sometimes there's criticism that devotional life, or as a devotee, one is so pessimistic, so negative. Why are you people so negative, right? Sometimes we talk about them and with them, and they say, we explain to them the process of devotional service. There's so many no's. So what can you do? If you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do that, what can you do? Right? Sometimes they even, when you're discussing with some innocent person, and you speak about being a vegetarian, for instance, they may ask, well, what is it that you actually eat? What do you eat? Of course, they've never been to a ISKCON festival, right? Or they've never been to a birthday celebration where there are so many, or they've never been to a Rabindranath breakfast. What is it that you eat? So it's not a question of being overly pessimistic or negative, but Krishna consciousness is a very reasonable process. It's very reason. There's a reason for what we do. It's very devotional service is sometimes very analytical. We analyze what we do in life in order to achieve the best result, isn't it? Even in the material world, people are, they have these institutes that are established to analyze different issues in society, whether it be economics, whether it be health, or environmental. There's so many analytics going on. So what to speak of spiritual life? It requires one to be reasonable or analytical. And after analyzing something, you make a reasonable action. Some kind of reasonable action is instituted. Just like we can see that in our own experience that one has to be, if we just think very clearly that all around us so many people are dying. There's no question. All around us, we can, there's no argument. Even try as we may to hide it over, like in some societies, they're very quick to take a deceased or a body, try to remove it as soon as possible so that no one gets upset. Whereas in other places, the body can be simply lying there in the street and no one makes a big issue of it. So all around us we're seeing that people are dying. And try as we may to cover it, or try as we may to prevent it. We invest so much time and energy in trying to prolong these bodies, but the eventuality is that we have to give it up. It's only there for a short time, just like a car. You can only use that car for so long, and then you have to start repairing all the parts until finally the engine blows, and then it's not worth making any more investment. If anyone's ever had that experience, you can spend a lot of money for the tires, the steering wheel, or the mirror, or the seat covers, or the gas pedal. Sometimes they put fancy gas pedals on their car, or a fancy stereo. But once the engine blows, what is the use? It makes no difference. It's useless. And you can't, all you can do is just junk it, and they give you a few bucks for it. So the fact is that try as we may, but all around us, people are dying. And all around us, there's happiness and distress, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, that happiness and distress, they come of their own accord, just as the winter and summer seasons. You can't prevent it. You can do so many things to try and avoid it or cover it over. When it's cold outside, you can put on a jacket, or you can, when it's too hot, you can turn up the fan. But the fact is that happiness and distress, heat and cold, the changing of the seasons, they're coming of their own accord, and you cannot do anything about it. So it's a very, Krishna consciousness, a very reasonable, very analytical process. Try as we may to avoid the distresses of the world, and society is again investing so much time and energy to do that. But but it happens. Padam padam nadvibadam natesham. The Bhagavatam tells us that every step is full of danger, and you can try and avoid it. You can try to build big, build a brick house and do all kinds of things to support it. Put your rebar in there and this and that. But then when the bomb falls on it, or when earthquake comes, it's useless. So happiness and distress, they're coming of their own accord, and we have no control over that. Adidaivaka, adiatmika, adibhautika. These distresses are coming, and they're always coming, no matter how many arrangements you make. And then again, it's very reasonable and thoughtful to think, how can I become successful in this world? Because again, we're very determined. Right? People are so determined to become successful. They eat, they cheat, they steal, anything they can do, beg, borrow, steal. Anything just to become successful. But how is it that some people are successful and others are not? We don't have any control of that. Right? We can do whatever you want to become successful. You can get a great education. You can spend thousands and thousands of dollars. Just like these students of the world these days, they spend so many years and so many dollars or rupees, whatever you got, to become educated. But when they get out of school, what is the result? Debt. Enormous debt, beyond their understanding. How can you come out of school and you owe $50,000? You don't even have a job. Right? You come out of school, you're 22, 24, you're $50,000 or more in debt, and then you think you want to get a wife? It doesn't make sense. It's not reasonable. It's not very thought out. So again, we're living in a world where people are quite unreasonable. What to speak of? How do I control my mind and senses, which are always distracting me, so that right? Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, Bhoga Aishvarya Prasakta. Their mind is totally distracted by so many Bhoga and Aishvarya. There's no vyavasyatmika buddhi, samado navariyate. There's no determination. There's no fixation about your goals in life, what to do. So we get into, we make a move in society, and all of a sudden, that was bad. Now I'm going to be suffering for this, or have to be responsible for it for so many years. Oh, well, we just wanted to have fun. Oh, now we have a child. Well, let's get rid of it. Let's do an abortion, or let's do this or that. Drop it off someplace. Isn't it? Sometimes it even happens like that. They're dropping the children off in front of some care facility, and the child is abandoned. What to speak of? So unwanted children. That's predicted in the Bhāgavatam, how that will happen. So the mind needs to be fixed. It needs to be controlled. Right? As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, yukta hara viharasya yukta cetasa karmasu yukta swapnavavoresya yoga bhavati dukkha. If you want to mitigate the miseries of material life, you have to learn how to control it. You have to learn how to control yourself. But there's no sense of that in the world, not in modern society, because, as Prabhupada points out here, it's misunderstood that persons associated or engaged in devotional service will not be able to solve the economic problem. What a fallacy. Because this is the materialistic idea, that if I don't engage in dharma, artha, kam, I won't be successful. I won't be successful. I won't be able to control my mind. So I have to be engaged in these materialistic activities. I have to work hard. I have to give a little charity once in a while, just so it looks good. We'll go to, Prabhupada was saying on one tape, oh yes, if the Lord gives me $1 million, I promise I'll come to the temple. This is the case. If the Lord gives me such and such, then certainly I'll worship Him. So this is the state of modern society. What to speak of who can you trust as your friend? Right? We're all looking for some friendship in the world. It's all about that. They establish or try to organize study groups or little social clubs or online services where you can learn how to become or how to get a friend. Because it's not possible out there. The material world is, it's all about destroying, serving someone else for your own gratification. So this is it's not a very reasonable proposition. That's why the Bhagavatam tells us, ahara nidra bhaya maitinam cha samanyamam etat pashubir naranam. That the animals and the humans, they both share in the same activities, right? Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. But the special property of the human form is that one can engage in spiritual work. Otherwise, it's on the level of animals. And this has to be done before the fag end of life. As Prahlad Maharaj recommends, Komaracharat Pragyo, that from the very beginning, one should be taught that principle. Not that, at the end, right now I'm too busy, but, when I'm on my deathbed, or at that fag end of life, certainly I'll worship, or I'll think about God, as if it's that easy. As Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, yam yam bhapi smaram bhavam tyajanti yanti kalevaram. Wherever your mind is, whatever you're remembering at the time of death, to that state you will attain. So it's not such a easy bargain. It's not like you can buy your way into it, right? Sometimes we think that if I can buy myself, buy my way into a position, be it work or politics or society or even love, we're thinking that I can buy my way into that. No, it doesn't work like that. Because when your mind is conditioned by so many materialistic thoughts throughout life, how do you think that you'll be able to remember Krishna at the end of life? It's not that easy. It's not like you can just turn it on. So what is that? What is the determining factor? And Prabhupada explains that in this purport, satsang-gyatag-vaishnava-chada, that one has to avoid the association of those persons or those conditions which will degrade one. Asatsang-gyatag-vaishnava-chada, Sri Sangha Ekashara Krishna Bhakta Ada. You have to avoid those situations where you're going to become degraded in your life, in your mind, in your activities, even in your words. It's such it's a razor's edge in some respects, right? What is that? Prapyavarani bodhita. Kshurasya durataya durgam patastad kavayovidan. It's just like a razor's edge. If you're not careful, that bad association or that association will take you in the wrong direction. And that direction means that you don't know what is to be done and what is not to be done. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Pravrittim cha navrittim cha janana vidura asara. That the materialistic persons, those who think that the problems of life can be solved economically, that if you're not engaged in economics, then how will you solve the problem? No, it's the exact opposite. Because it's by that association that you develop all those bad qualities. Na saucham, there's no cleanliness. Your mind is contaminated with so many illicit thoughts, cheating, etc. Na saucham na picha chado, that neither proper behavior. Well, there's one interesting little advice given by Mahatma Gandhi. I forget the whole thing, but the last part of it is that your thoughts lead to your actions. I haven't written down the whole thing. It's a nice little instruction, moral instruction. But the point is that your thoughts will lead to your actions, right? There's thinking, feeling, willing. So because your thoughts are not clean, your behavior will be unclean. Na saucham na bichachado, that na satyam teshu vidyate. And the truth is lost, and ultimately one does not understand what is good, right? As Prahlad says, Natevidu swartagatam hi Vishnu durashaya bhartamanina. They're very ambitious, durashaya, very ambitious to enjoy in the material world. They don't know what is to be done. That they're being misled by those who think that the way to solve the problems is by materialistic engagement. That if you take devotional service, you're a loser, right? They think sometimes like that. The materialists are thinking that if one takes up devotional life, that he becomes a loser. Sometimes that story of the boatman and the scholar, we hear that how the scholar was criticizing the boatman, that you haven't learned economics, you haven't learned astrology, you haven't learned this science or that science. And then when the storm comes, the boatman tells the fellow, let's jump in the water and swim for it. But I can't swim. Oh, well, 100% of your life has been wasted. So the reality is that they don't know what is to be done. Instead, they're very ambitious to try to enjoy in this material world. And therefore, they're simply suffering the results of the three modes of material nature. That's their end goal. That's their destination. But there's a solution, as Prabhupada writes here. There is an answer to this argument. And it is described here that one has to associate with liberated persons. And that's described in the second canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Well, of course, sadhu sangha, sarva shastra koi. That just that lava matra, that teeny little bit of association, that moment's association with the devotee of the Lord, that is the solution, or that is the way to avoid or come out of this miserable condition that I've some or other sunk myself into. I don't want to be here, but I don't know how to get out. I've somehow or other fallen into this web of material life and I don't know how to get out. So the solution is sadhu sangha, sarva shastra koi. That little teeny bit of association, and that even it takes a moment. And we know in the example of Maharaj Khatvanga how important one moment is. Right? We know that story. He had one moment. He asked the demigods after fighting for so long, how much time do I have? And they said 1 moment. And immediately he focused his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we know how how valuable a moment is. Therefore, we're also very careful about how we utilize our time, how we use that precious time and not squander it in so many useless things. Not become distracted that, this is the goal of life is just to enjoy yourself. Just like what is that example of Charvaka Muni, right? He says, even if you go into debt, whatever, the goal of life is that one should happily eat as much ghee as you can. Because the body will be ashes pretty soon and it's not going to come back. This is the mentality of modern society, of the materialists, who are thinking that, economic development will save us. But the Bhagavatam tells us instead, muhur ahor asika bhuvi bhavaka, that one has to be very expert and thoughtful. Think about it. Think about what you're doing, how we've entangled ourselves. Everything is there in devotional service. We know that. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, right? Vedeshu yageshu tapasu chaiva. Dhaneshu yat punya palam pradishtam. Everything is there. Everything is achieved in the process of devotional service. You can study the Vedic literatures. Vedeshu, you want to become intelligent? Oh, okay. Well, study the Vedic literatures. Yageshu. Sacrifice. You want to perform some sacrifice for whatever benefit? Yageshu is there. Tapashu, that you want to engage in some austerities for a particular benefit? It's also there within the Vedic literatures. Dhaneshu, giving charity. Sometimes people want to derive again some benefit by giving a little. Let me give somebody a dollar at the light, right? And sometimes they're always there, and you get to a point where I can't give $1 anymore. I may go broke. I can't give any dollar anymore. I'm tired of giving out dollars. I need it for myself. Some philanthropic or charitable work. But the answer is given in the Vedic literatures. If you want to attain that supreme destination, right? Yogi param sthanam, that the devotee achieves that highest destination by engaging in devotional service. And Prabhupada explains that here in this wonderful, wonderful purport, in which he doesn't waste one word. Every word is just incredible, every sentence. The devotee's intelligence is always in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore his attitudes toward material existence is one of detachment. Right? Prahlad, he's praised like that as well. Because my mind is fixed on you, I don't have any interest in this material existence. Instead, one becomes attached, for he knows perfectly well that the material world is just simply an illusory energy. And he realizes that he is a part and parcel of the Supreme, and therefore he engages in devotional service. And in the end, he gives up his material body or the material energy. I found this last sentence to be quite interesting. So I have a question. Thus, at the end, he gives up his material body or the material energy, and as spirit soul, he enters into the kingdom of God. Anyone want to comment on that last sentence? It's interesting how Prabhupada makes a distinction there. Bhagavati Prabhu. Very interesting how Prabhupada, he doesn't waste words, but he makes us be very thoughtful.
There's two ways you could, think of that, interpret that. One is that Prabhupada's giving a choice, two different things. You're either giving up your material body or you're giving up the material energy. Or another way you could think about it is that he's offering two different perspectives. The same thing is happening. You're giving up your material body, or another way to think of that is that you're just giving up the material energy. I take the latter, that he's offering two different perspectives. Whether you want to think of yourself as giving up the material body, or the same thing, giving up the material energy. That's you're going to do. It's two different perspectives. You do that and you go back to Godhead, as opposed to two different phenomena taking place. That would be my way of understanding it.
Well, any other comments?
After you make your choice, of course, there is also one factor very important, that you have to have faith in order to make that choice. Yeah, I'm going to make this choice. I have faith in that. And in the Bhagavad Gita says that asradadana purusha dharmasya parantapa aprapyamang nivartante mrityu samsara varmanam. If you don't make that choice that Prabhupada is giving you, that those 2 points, what happens? You come back and take birth again and again and again. So.
Another comment?
Well, on that material energy, could it mean that you also, in this life, you can give up, the modes of material nature, the energy that everyone thrives for in the material world, that you give up that material energy, the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance.
That's exactly. And
you can stay in this world and still be in the spiritual world.
That's a very important point. That for the devotee, because it's a devotee, there's a special benediction that even in this body, you can give up the material energy. With the Mahabhagavat, with the pure devotees, we know they're liberated. Prahlad, Dhruva, Srila Prabhupada, they're in the same self-body, even, right? Isn't it? Dhruva and his mother, even. Self-same bodies. They went straight to Vaikuntha, to the Supreme, to reside in the spiritual world. So whether it's giving up this body or giving up the material energy, it's a special prerogative, you could say, or position of one who's engaged in devotional service. Bhagavati Prabhu.
Yeah, I agree. That's the best, I think, understanding. That there's that verse, Iha yasya harer dashe karmana manasagara nikalashvapya vashtashti jivan mukta se uchate. So Rupa Goswami says if somebody's fully engaged in devotional service, they're liberated even in this lifetime. I had a reflection. Is that not a question? Can I share it? Okay. So you were talking about the students, and how they go and they graduate $50,000 or more. Generally, it's more in debt, and it's just taken as normal these days because they didn't experience anything else. There's a devotee, Gruntaraj. He's up in Berkeley Temple. he's been there for years. He was telling me, we were talking a few years ago, he was saying he graduated from UC Berkeley with money in his bank account. But that's unheard of, But I was reminded as you was, talking about that of a god brother of mine. His name is ours, Gopinathacharya, who's actually a great book distributor. He was the pioneer for selling sets of Bhagavatams and Chaitanya Charitamritas. So he was very fond of drinking milk, okay? And what he used to do was he'd get a gallon of milk and he'd add like a cup of cream, So I used to watch him do that. And finally one day I said to him, I said, Gopinath, what are you doing? Why don't you just drink the milk naturally? Just drink it as it comes. He said, I am. I said, what do you mean? He said, milk has cream in it. They take it out. I'm putting it back in. See? Yeah. So, me as a city slicker, kid brought up in the Bronx, I didn't even know that, what to speak of. So I just thought, oh yeah, you get so used to the unnatural thing that you take it as natural. Like the kids who go to the 2-year colleges now, it's empty, and they just, if I say something to them like, yeah, this college used to have so many kids, there's like a blank expression on their face. They have what is he talking about? Because their only experiences is the college is like a ghost town, So, we get used to these unnatural things and we take it as natural. Just like if you go turn back the clock, now they have all land is owned by the government. It didn't used to be like that. Even in nations, with governments, it used to be like if there was land and somebody didn't own it, it was up for grabs. If you went and lived there and, you built a house and you started farming it or something like that, that was considered your land. Now it's like Bureau of Land Management. There's tons of land out there that's vacant. You can't move onto it and do anything. It's illegal. And if you get some land, even if you buy it and, you pay for it, and you can't grow your own stuff. You have to buy the seeds from Monsanto. You can't even use, right? You can't even use, so it's just so weird. And, but fortunately Prabhupada is, actually what we're doing here is natural. I remember when I first started going to India, we went to Vrindavan, and the shops in Lower Bazaar didn't open till like 10, 11 o'clock. And I was thinking, man, this is weird. I was thinking, this is weird. Shops in America open at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, the latest, some even earlier. And so I was thinking that as weird. But then I remember hearing Prabhupada say in a conversation, he said, no, in India they start their business later because morning is the time for worship. Morning is the time for worship. So that was the explanation. The people in Lower Bazaar, not that they were lazy or crazy, that's what you do in the morning. They're doing some religious activity. And when they get done with that, then they go and they open the shop. So we're fortunate. Prabhupada is, actually we're living naturally is the point I was trying to make. This morning program, this is what human beings are supposed to do in the morning. Human beings are supposed to, in the morning, get up early and, get clean and everything and worship. Do some sort of religious activity. This is the way to start the day. So we're actually, by Prabhupada's mercy, living naturally, whether we know it or not. That's what went through my head when you were talking about that, students and all.
We'll read the verse one more time. This is such a powerful verse. Endowed with right vision and strengthened by devotional service and a pessimistic attitude towards material identity, one should relegate his body to this illusory world through his reason. Okay, let's just put the body, it'll deal with material energy. Thus one can be unconcerned with this material world. One last comment.
Hare Krishna. My question is in regards to whether Krishna consciousness is devoid of solving the economic problem.
No, I mentioned that in the verse from Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, Vedeshu yagyeshu tapasu chaiva, that all the benefits that one can derive from sacrifices, austerities, charities, a study, a pious activity, all these things can be achieved through the process of devotional service. They're automatically achieved. We don't have to strive separately. Krishna provides.
So the following point, thank you for that response, is in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12, Srila Prabhupada says that the way that this Krishna consciousness movement expands is through intelligent use of land, labor, capital, things that our mind would tend to think are material necessities, but how can we expound on that devotional service of having the preaching allow for we are meant to open restaurants, buy land, so many things that we have to do, and not fall into the category of the materialists of begging, borrowing, and stealing.
That's answered by Prabhupada in this purport also, where he says that the materialistic persons think that a devotional life, you will not be able to solve the economic problem. But the answer to this argument is described here, and that is to associate with liberated persons through their vani, not just physically, but through their vani. And we can take the instructions of these great souls through we can take the benefits of their instructions by studying them and then applying them. And through simple philosophy, logic, and reasoning, and the problems of life will be solved. We just have to take advice from the liberated souls, take their association and take their guidance. And those issues, I have this problem, that problem, it's economic, it's social, it's personal. Take the association of the liberated soul. Everything is there in the Bhagavatam. It's so wonderfully explained.
Yeah, I would say if you just take a look at a sample of a temple, there's no one that is fully surrendered to the temple, living in the temple, that has a job. They're not going out to a 9-to-5 job. They're just doing service for the temple. And from that service, people become attracted to Krishna consciousness, and they donate Lakshmi to support us. So there's no one here being asked to go out and get a labor job and then give you money to the temple. We're not asking that. We're asking, but within the confines of what Prabhupada gave us, book distribution, prasadam distribution, and different functions where people can come, and they'll be more than happy to donate towards that activity so that they can do something for Krishna consciousness. And we're seeing that example here. That's exactly what's going on.
Yeah, they become inspired. The other night we had that dinner program, and the attendees are not living in a temple. They're out and about working, trying to maintain themselves and family. But they came, and on the inspiration of association with the devotees who were there, they were inspired to contribute. And lo and behold, the Rath Yatra festival or other festivals or temple maintenance or deity seva, even devotee seva, can be managed. It's simply by that association with the Vaishnavas that the conditioned souls, or those who are coming closer to Krishna consciousness, little by little, can be encouraged and become strong supporters, and eventually they're in here with us regularly, they're initiated, chanting, etc.
That book, Perfect Questions, Perfect Answers, remember that? So, the conversation between Prabhupada and now Brahmatirtha, then Bob Cohn. So at one point in the conversation, Prabhupada said to him, yeah, we perform austerities and Krishna supplies nice things.
Yeah.
And I thought about, what is that? How does that work, Krishna's pleased by the austerities. Devotees perform service. Krishna's in the heart. He's pleased, and he dictates to these people who are receptive, sympathetic to the Krishna conscious movement, donate. And that's how it works.
Yeah.
We perform devotional austerities, no illicit sex, no eating, no intoxication, no gambling, fully engaged in devotional service. Krishna is pleased by that, and he, from within, he inspires the general populace from within, by his causeless mercy, to support us and help us.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.